Okay, it's 6 o'clock.
Okay, we're on here. I'll call this meeting to order. First item is just to make the public know that everyone is present. Mike Kasb is by Zoom. Item number 1 on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. I believe we have to amend that. Lori?
We do have one amendment to the agenda, an action on personnel. So I would request that someone.
Well,
Yeah.
hold on, Mike.
Yes.
Depending on, I'm looking at the next board meeting on January 19th, so depending on what happens with the second semester learning plan, we may have to change that or may call a special meeting.
Right, we may have to call a special meeting.
Right. Okay.
We may.
Would we prefer to call a special meeting rather than moving that meeting up a week?
Well, if we call a special meeting, we could also change this January
Right.
19th meeting.
Yes.
If everyone's agreeable to that.
We could.
Okay. Let's do it that way.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. So then, motion to approve the agenda, please.
Well, I'll move to approve.
Motion by Lou,
Second.
second by Joanne. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. 3.0 is approval of the minutes for the November 15 meeting. Any additions or corrections that we know of? If not, I accept a motion to approve it.
I'll move to approve that also.
Motion by Lou,
Second. Oh, okay. Olivia.
second by Olivia. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carry 7-0. Item 4.0 is consideration of bills and warrants. Anybody has any questions? Not, accept the motion.
So move.
Is that Jeff?
It is, yes.
Okay, motion by Jeff. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Joanne. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carry 7-0. 5.0 is hearing of requests and suggestions. Do we have anybody present?
We do not.
Okay,
Amanda,
moving
shake
forward to
your
6.0, report from the superintendent.
All right, so the first thing on my report is the KASB virtual convention. So usually we either go to Kansas City for 2 or 3 days, or we go to Wichita. So this was different because we did it all virtually. The majority of the sessions were pre-recorded, and so you watched the pre-recorded sessions that you were interested in, and then there was a time later in those 2 or 3 days, you'd look at the calendar and be able to join them for questions and answers. So I thought it was an interesting setup. Sometimes it's harder when you're still here and working in the middle of things to be able to really focus. There was a really good session on an equity council and how one of those developed in Salina. It was very interesting to watch that and then to participate in that question and answer session. That's something that we may look at in the future. They had some general sessions that were live. I watched a couple of those. I thought they were really pretty good. Mr. Castle, were you able to attend some of those?
I did. I got more of the question and answer sessions than the recorded ones, but there's really good discussion in those question and answer times. And I didn't write down the ones I went to, but overall it was a good conference, and I thought the general sessions were really good.
Yeah.
We had some really good speakers. Can't remember the guy's name who was the keynote at the end.
He was
He
good.
really had a great message for us about the 8 columns of success. I thought it was very good.
It was a very different approach, but I felt like there was some good learning. So that was good to know. Next in my report is the COVID-19 update for the district. So as of today, at 5:15, when I left the office, we had 9 positive students. So that's active COVID cases, 9. It's equivalent to 0.7% of our student population. And out of those 9, 2 of those students are actually remote learners, but we've included them in our accounts. There were 3 positive staff, which is about 1%. So those numbers are very low. The numbers of the virus are low. The numbers of quarantine are not so low. Today, we ended the day with 103 in quarantine district-wide, which is better than what we ended last week with. On Friday, so Durden has she's worked her magic with Infinite Campus and pulled some formulas. So every day she pulls out of attendance the number in quarantine, the number that are absent. And so last Friday, there were 158 students that were quarantined. So today, 103. So those numbers have gone down, but they fluctuate. And each of those students is in and out of a classroom, or something like that. So the majority of our school exposures returned today. We have a few still out. Majority of those left are household or outside of school exposure. So the last board meeting, we talked about the gating criteria, and there were some questions about had we adopted this, had we looked at it. So I went back through and pulled things from the view and things from board meetings and board packets, and we did review the gating criteria. We looked at all of those different components. Our health department had recommended that the one we really needed to look at was that absenteeism. And so when we looked at that, what they looked at is, and what it says is here's your average daily attendance, and is it more than 3% than what your average daily attendance is, then you would need to look at something else. And what we know is that's a pretty big chunk. Our average daily attendance is 95%. And so if we looked at 3%, that would mean we could have 8% of the virus before we looked at something different. And right now with our students and staff combined, we're at 1.7. So, and it also did note KDH&E has added, I think as time has gone on and we've learned, KDH&E has added things to that site, and we've asked some more questions and done some more clarification for that. Let's see.
So what was the total number of students that are out of the building? Not absent, but out of the building?
Out of the building for quarantine?
No, out of the building. Quarantine, remote, and illness.
So you do want other absent?
This is what we talked about at our last health meeting, I believe.
We did. So today we had 103, and so you're gonna have to give me a minute because I'll have to do some math here. There were 103 quarantined, 75 other absences. Now, so there were 75 students that did not participate today in some kind of remote learning, okay? But now, there were 178 not on campus, and then if we go and add our remote learners, and we just figure those by the week, okay? So we had, the end of last week, we had 38 remote learners. We'd started with 84. At the middle school last week, the end of the week, we ended with 60 remote learners. We'd started with 76. The high school, we had 83 remote learners, and we started with 83. So currently there's 181 remote learners. So those students are learning from home. We had 103 today quarantined. So if we add that together, we have 284 students that were learning remotely today and 75 students that were absent.
359 total.
So 359 total. That is correct.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions about that? Or those numbers or what we're doing? Okay, facilities team. Okay, so our facilities group was scheduled to meet on Wednesday of this week because we moved our board meeting. And so we did not have all of the estimates and numbers gathered. We're still waiting on some Greenbush asbestos removal figures. We got the window figures, so we've sent those in. We're waiting on some roofing figures as well to put into here. So once we get that, our facilities team will meet again, go through and look at those projects, and then we'll have something for the January board meeting. Okay? Any questions on facilities? Okay. Let's see, then the rest of what we've got going on. This Friday is early dismissal. It's the last student day. Now here's the trick. It is not the last day of the semester. Typically, when we get to Christmas, it's like, okay, we're halfway done. We finished first semester, but we started later. So first semester doesn't actually end until January the 15th, but we are out for winter break beginning on Friday. So students have winter break from Friday, December the 18th, clear until January the 3rd. And then on January the 4th, it's time for staff and students. Winter recess will be over and they will return. So January the 15th, that day we're going to have early dismissal at noon because that's actually the end of the semester, the end of the 9 weeks. And so staff will be working on their grades that afternoon. So when we dismiss this Friday, elementary kids dismiss at 1 o'clock, middle school, high school dismiss at 12:45. We've got our big long break. We come back for 2 weeks to finish the semester. January 15th, we have grades, we have early dismissal that day. January the 18th, we have no school. The district office is closed in honor of Martin Luther King Day. And our regularly scheduled board meeting would be the evening of the 18th. And so it has been moved to the 19th, the next day. So it'll be January the 19th at 6 o'clock here. And that's when our second semester starts.
Thanks, Lori. Any questions for Lori? Hearing none, we'll move on to 7.0, which is special education report. We had a real quick meeting. We had executive session to start with. We went over the director's evaluation. We then approved the teacher apprentice program. Those teachers who are on the apprentice program have only been paid 75% of base salary. We have moved that to pay the full base salary for those teachers that are doing as much work as our other teachers, for all those times that we took care of them. And we approved the, what's it called there, the Family First Coronavirus Act, Flexible Work Environment and Leave Extension. The co-op did approve that. And that was the gist of the meeting. Any questions?
Mike, how many teachers do we have in the apprentice program?
I believe it was 4. Any other questions? Okay, we're ready for 8.0. We're ready for principals reports.
All right.
We have Eric and Rob present.
Here they come. Here comes Eric.
All right, good evening. Our board report, all the evals are completed. They're all submitted to the DO. That's finished up. We did home basketball on December 4th. We did that with no fans. And then on December 10th with the 2 participants, it was only boys that night since the girls weren't playing. So it was a nice little test run on some things. We won't know what it looks like with boys and girls until we get a game where we have boys and girls here. 2 tickets per participant. Now, band did not have any parents that came for the band. Dance had maybe 5 or 6 sets of parents, and cheer, I think, had a couple. So those numbers, which could be big for spectators, were not big that night. We do host a girls-only event this Saturday. We have Mulvane coming in to make up the game that we lost last week. Contact tracing, we had a good chunk of kids come back today and another come back tomorrow, but we put 18 more out today and 1 more staff. So as soon as you feel like, oh good, there's a breath, you just get punched in the gut and it takes the breath away. But the numbers have been manageable since Thanksgiving. It's the staff numbers that have been really tough. We were down 3 subs yesterday for today, and we had 1 teacher cancel their paid time off, which freed someone up. And then Amanda worked some magic and got another, so we covered just 1. But last week we covered several times in-house, people covering on their planning periods.
Substitutes.
Instructional coaches being used. I'm using Mr. Daniels to cover. So too many subs in and out, instruction suffers. And we know that. Finals, staff's given input on finals, but a lot's going to depend on how we proceed coming back from Christmas break, because I know that's an agenda item tonight. Art class. We spent a lot of time talking about bad things in COVID. Well, our art classes are doing a mural in the hallway on the south end of the gym, and it's a sports mural. They've taken all the sports and they're painting it in pieces. Each kid's got their own little section, and then when they're done, it's going to look like one big complete mural. That is really coming along. That's really cool to see. And then Race Baker's doing a Viking down the main hallway as part of an enrichment project she has. So our art classes are doing some neat things around the school. And then finally, I just wanted to add that Rob and I really appreciate your support over the last 3 months. Nothing's been perfect. Remote isn't great. In-person learning suffers when we've got kids in and out, teachers in and out, in and out. We don't know who's going to be quarantined. Every time we plan a home event, like 3 times, Keisha's changed the rules on us for home events. So we plan, change, and we just know that you support us and you'll have our back. So I wanted to say thank you as this first semester wraps up. So,
Got a question.
yeah,
On your contact tracing.
yeah.
Does the school nurse do that?
No.
Or do you do that?
Rob and I do that. We have a stick that we carry around and it's cut to 6 foot. And we go through and we take that seating chart and we see where the student sits. And we measure that 6 foot from, in front, behind, left, right, basically in a radius. So if Roger Droney comes up positive, I take my stick and I measure where Jeff's sitting and I measure where Lori's sitting. And like today, we went around and we did contact tracing during 7th hour. So we walked into every hour during 7th hour. So every class thought we were contact tracing their class, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So we're that stick out, and kids are like, "Oh no, do I have to go?" No, we're not doing your hour. This is a totally different hour we're working on.
So
But
is the nurse involved at all in your,
the nurse is involved with contacting parents, answering their questions, but as far as the actual tracing, she's not, because it's based on seating arrangements. It's based on when we talk to teachers. We'll pick up the phone or we'll talk to each person in person. And say, what do you remember about Thursday, Friday? Here's the kid we're tracing. Here, your seating arrangement says these kids are good. And then the teacher can say, no, I remember that so-and-so wasn't here or so-and-so was sitting on the wall that day. So there's a lot of factors that go into it.
right?
Any other questions for Eric? Thank you, Eric.
All right.
I'll be short since he already touched on our 2 home events that we've hosted. They went really well. And then we host Saturday. It's a home game, so hopefully it will be live streamed. We have the boys also play that day. They've moved their time. We thought they'd play later in the day. They now play at 2 o'clock. So we're going to have a cross up on our game times. We'll get something out where fans can watch the boys and the girls. We don't know what that is yet.
Rob, so when you get these calls from coaches or ADs, is it usually like the day before, 2 days, when they say they can't participate because they're quarantining? How does that work?
For example, Monday, we had to call Circle because we had a contact trace from Friday's game against Girard. So often it's the day of, maybe the day before, but it's usually, if your phone rings anytime between noon and 4 o'clock and it's a number that you don't recognize or it's an AD number, your first thought is someone's not going to show up. So that's how that goes.
The key's just been to be flexible.
Right.
For sure.
So how is the rest of the SEK doing, do you know? As far as,
I know right now, Independence boys and girls are quarantined. We're good to go. Boys play tomorrow at LC. Right now, our girls come out of quarantine tomorrow. We had 7 girls in. Pittsburgh's called. We're good to go Friday. And that's all I know about the rest of SEK.
There's 2 tickets per participant.
Yes.
No. I believe that's 2 tickets per participant's family, is it not?
Yes, per
per
participant's
participant's
family.
family.
It's supposed to be parent or guardian.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be,
Okay, but now family, does that include grandparent now?
no,
No, so it has to be, okay, just the.
Parent and guardian.
parent guardian.
Okay, because family kind of, I was questioning brother, sister.
Yeah, there was a bunch of back and forth during the Acacia meeting about spectators or family or immediate family, and it's just supposed to be
Parent
mom
or
or dad or guardian. Who,
Okay,
so
fine.
we've had some question on that. It's hard to tell if a student only has one participant coming and they ask for another one to come, but it's not a parent or guardian, we have to say no.
how do you manage the distancing in the bleachers? Are they marked or?
The bleachers aren't marked. We just encourage the social distancing in the bleachers. Luckily, we haven't had a big enough crowd where we've really had to worry about that because we haven't had boys and girls together yet. That is a concern when that happens.
Okay.
You have to bring
Anything else?
You'll have to bring your stick.
Yeah.
You might have to use it a different
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Anything else for Eric or Rob? Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. I think our middle school folks.
I mean,
Good evening, everyone.
Good
Hello.
evening.
So Tyler and I are going to kind of tag team our presentation to you all this evening based on our areas of expertise and what we've been working the most closely with. But we wanted to start off talking to everyone about student supports, and that's kind of Tyler's area of expertise. So I will let him talk about what's going on with student supports in our building.
Mostly, it's just been data collection up to this point. But before Thanksgiving break, all of our teams were able to document the behavior screener, and that's external and internal behaviors, and identify students that are in need. If behavior is communication, and those kids are communicating that they need additional support. And so that's where we put them in touch with our community and schools person. It's documented and it's a part of our KISA data that we collect year to year. And also who needs mental health services. And then this week, we're also going to be completing our relationship survey. And so one of the things about keeping kids safe at school is for them to feel safe at school. And so we take a look at how many students can identify at least 2 adults inside of the building. That's our custodians, that's our lunch ladies, that's all paras, that's all support staff. And as long as they can identify 2, then we feel like they feel like it's safe. They're at school, at least they have an outlet or they have somebody that they have a relationship with. And so those are our supports as of this moment. It's all related to KISA. We also use it in our SIT meetings, student intervention teams. It's all data. So whenever we have to put a kid, say, on a tier 2 intervention behavior screener, then we can put them with a person that they've identified a relationship with. So then they're checking in with that person at the beginning of the day. They're tracking the behaviors that they're seeing consistently throughout the day. And then they're rewarding that student at the end of the day also with something internal.
I have a question, hold on. At one of the Zoom meetings with the Kansas Associated School Boards, we were talking about telehealth and telemental health.
Yeah.
So how does a student get referred and what's available for our staff?
For mental health,
Yes, sir.
for our staff, I don't know that we have a whole lot to offer because we don't have a system in place to refer them. Aside from that, whenever students, a lot of times they come up in our SIT meetings. And so if we're seeing continued behavior, then we can reference Nikki's a phone call away, Robin Thomas is a phone call away. She actually comes to the SIT meetings. Susan Hill is a part of those SIT meetings also. She's community and schools. And so that can be just kind of daily check-ins, but we reference them to Labette Center of Mental Health through Robin.
Right, and that's that grant program that we have,
Yes.
because Robin is the new liaison.
So it has
So
to go
she's the
through.
lead, it goes through her, yeah. So she's our representative. It goes through her, and then she contacts Nikki, and Nikki sends somebody to start checking it out.
And we
A
also.
lot of times we can put them in Navigators, which is a class there at school, and they have 8 spots that we can fill, and they meet them every Monday and Wednesday in the library and meet with those students. And so Navigators, if we can get them placed inside of Navigators and get the parents to agree to that, that's often a good base to
So
decide
are
if
the
they need
numbers
additional
increasing
supports.
for telemental health?
Telemental health, no, because we don't have telemental health. Well, all of ours is in person. And so like, whenever you say tele, I'm assuming that's through Zoom, right?
Right, we don't, that's
Well, I
not,
know some of the kids at the Youth Crisis Center have to do telemental health. Why is there a difference?
well, that would,
I'm not sure, yeah.
We did do some telehealth when one of our therapists was on quarantine, and we did some telehealth. Robin set the meeting up, and then the therapist would do that.
But they're mostly in person then?
Mostly they're
Typically.
in
I
person.
did not know that.
Yeah.
How
They
often
set
do
up
you-
appointments after school.
how often do you have set meetings?
Every Tuesday.
Okay.
Actually, we pull together a large team there for those students. And then I think Rajan's got the professional development.
I'm trying to socially distance, that's why I went out there. So the next thing I want to talk about is a little bit about the professional development that's been going on at the middle school. So one of the things that we started off with the beginning of the year is having technology training with staff. And then we have continued on with that and transitioned into really looking at our standards and looking at how we design units of study to align to our standards. And so Susan Dringenberg has been working with the staff and really looking at lesson planning and the depth of knowledge of the standards. And it's been very helpful to our staff. They said that it gets them a little bit more close. And I think that that's important, that they're a little bit more closer to the standards, especially at this time when we're looking at textbook adoption and those kind of things. The way that we're going to get the best textbook adoption is when teachers really know what it is that they're supposed to be teaching and can find the resources to align to the needs of our students. Today, we also had several staff members that participated in dyslexia training. And so that dyslexia training is designed to identify struggling readers and put consistent interventions in place for those students. So that's something that we're looking at now and building our plan about how it is that we're going to be able to implement that for the upcoming school year. One of the things that as we are kind of wrapping up with our teachers with learning about how to really analyze those standards and come up with lesson plans that are standards aligned, is that we are going to begin to shift our focus into a student-centered learning environment. So as Tyler and I and Susan Dringenberg, our instructional coach, have been walking around and doing walkthroughs and trying to calibrate and think about what are the things that are going to give us the biggest bang for our buck with professional development and advancing the achievement of our students, one of the things that we have identified is the amount of teacher talk to student talk. And what we see is that our teachers are sometimes working harder than our students. And we know that the people that are doing the talking are the people that are doing the learning. So if we can get our teachers to increase the amount of talk that their students have, we believe that that will have a positive impact on student achievement. And so when you look at that, that's just one strategy that falls underneath the umbrella of a student-centered learning environment.
Who did your dyslexia training?
It was through the Department of Ed. There were 2 consultants from there that led that professional development training. So that was led by them in the AM, and then the PM student, Susan Dringenberg, had designed professional development with those ELA teachers to look at, okay, now this is what we've learned. This is our base knowledge from KSDE. How are we going to apply that and implement that within our school?
I noticed they've completed a book now. I mean, you know.
There is a dyslexia training.
Yes.
It's a
This was the
requirement.
secondary.
Right.
Oh.
The middle school took the elementary dyslexia training, and this was some additional training for
Specific to,
secondary.
specific to secondary.
And the high
so.
school, they haven't completed it yet, but.
But it is a requirement. Everyone's required to do it. So,
Does the board have any questions?
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Tyler, did you have something else?
I can be done. It was athletics.
Oh, you want to talk about athletics?
It was on our report. Girls' basketball is finished, and today we started boys' basketball practice. Thursday, we're rewarding positive behavior, so the students that don't have DRs and don't have a D or an F in class, we're going to reward them with kind of a movie experience. We purchased a movie that we're going to play, and they're going to watch it in groups and socially distanced. And then on Friday, it's going to be a lot of holiday celebrations and makeup work.
All right. Getting
Any
caught up.
questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All the folks coming in?
Wait.
And then the last thing I have is talk about our subs.
One more thing.
And one of the things that I feel like it's important for the board to know as you guys consider some of the decisions that you have to make this evening is the amount of subs that we are having in our building. So consistently at the middle school, we have 7 to 12 subs. And so that's a lot of subs in a building. And sometimes that's not even enough. And we're using the subs to sub in classrooms that we don't have a sub for. And if that sounds crazy and confusing,
It is. I mean, that's the reality.
this is our everyday reality. And so I think that that's something that's important for you guys to know. I understand that people have mixed feelings about things, and that's okay. But the thing that I think about is why it is that it was so important to us at the beginning of the year for us to open up schools. And it was so important to us because our schools are a safe place for our kids to land. And I still feel like they're safe. But I think when we think about relationships and the emotional safety of our children, that's something that I think that we have to take to heart. And when you see a different person every day, and sometimes your soft spot to land isn't there, I think that that is sometimes difficult for our children. And when I see how those difficulties are emerging, is that I am starting to see students that have behaviors that I have never seen have behaviors all school year long. So it's not just about the number of subs that we have in the building. It's about the quality of relationship and the quality of care that we're able to provide to those children in an emotional way during the time that they're there.
I would agree completely. I have a granddaughter at the middle school. I know one day last week, she had 4 different subs.
It's hard for kids.
So thank you guys very much this evening.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you. Now, are we ready for elementary now?
I think we are. I think they're gonna come probably one at a time. Shelley's coming first, and today it was Grinch Day at Lincoln.
Today's Grinch Day.
It was
I'm
Grinch Day,
representing.
so she's got her Grinch on. It was Grinch Day at Lincoln.
So at Lincoln, we've been pretty busy. First grade had Reindeer Day on December 9th. Now we have Holiday Spirit Week, and today was Grinch Day. Tuesday's going to be Holiday Shirt Day. Wednesday's Holiday Socks. Thursday's Christmas hat, headband, or bow, and Friday is Ugly Sweater Day. So we're going to have some exciting times at Lincoln. December 17th, we're going to be having our Christmas parties. We decided not to have them on the 18th because preschool would all be there on the 17th, so that way it would just be one day of parties instead of splitting it up. December 18th, Santa is going to make an appearance thanks to the Parsons Fire Department. So the Parsons Fire Department has agreed to bring Santa and drive around the school. So we're really excited about that. But I do want to give a shout out to the hardworking staff at Lincoln. So I'm just going to pass this. These are some dibble scores. And I'll let everybody get it before I. Sorry.
And so the DIBBLs are the dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills, so it's all.
I hope I made enough. Maybe I didn't.
It's perfect.
Hey.
Thank you.
So if you just kind of take a look, the first, the top of it is the kindergarten. So on September 14th, they came to school, we doubled them, and they were at 41% of them above benchmark or at benchmark. And December 7th, we are at 96% of students that are at or above benchmark.
Here, I'll just text him a picture.
Oh, yeah.
Mike, we're gonna send you a picture of this. Sorry.
And then first graders came in a little lower from our big break there, and they came in at 29%. And as of December 7th, they were at 85%. So we have got some awesome staff working really, really hard with those kids, and those kids are really working hard to learn. So I just wanted to kind of share some success stories and just give a shout out to all the hardworking people in the district.
Very good.
Oh, nice.
On the Dibbles, now this is where they read individually to the,
Yeah,
Proctor.
the oral reading fluency starts in January. So these are like nonsense words.
Phonemic segmentation.
Yeah.
okay.
They're sounding it
Yeah.
out.
So when January
Use of
comes, we're going to start with a
sound
whole new set of skills. So we'll see where that lands, and then we'll see where we're at the end of the year.
I see.
But
But it's great to know that, 41% started at
Yeah.
benchmark, and in December,
96.
96% are at benchmark.
96.
And to go from 29 to 85, that's good growth.
It's good growth. It is
It
good
is.
growth. Good things are
Something
happening.
to celebrate.
Yep.
So does this include kids that are remote and quarantined?
Yes.
So how do you test them when they're quarantined?
So they've came in. If they are remote, quarantine, we'll just wait until they come back.
Because quarantine students would then return and then
Right.
have the assessment. And then those remote students, they scheduled a time.
And some of them have done it outside. They've really become creative on how to test those kids.
Well, and Dibbles is a very, good test, but a really good thing about it is it's short and sweet.
Yeah. They're
And
1
it
minute
doesn't
tests.
take a long time to assess these skills that we're assessing, so.
All right.
Thank you, Shelley.
Good evening. The site council for Garfield met on December 10th at lunch through Zoom. We had 8 people present. When it comes to the contact tracing, it is my hope that we would social distance so well that only the positive would have to go home and no one else would have to go home in the building. We have found areas to make adjustments and to spread kids out further, and we've done so. I found that I had to make a form for myself because in the moment of getting called that there's a positive in the building, it's hard to think of all the different places that that child goes during the day in the heat of the moment. So thinking about the classroom, we have 2 classes in the building that eat in the lunchroom so that we could properly social distance. So just, remembering which classes go there, the specials, the bus, is that child in interventions? Is that child in special ed? Who is their interventionist? I recently had several interventionists and a special ed teacher quarantined because of a positive student, and that made me really rethink how we do our interventions. And even though we have plexiglass between them, that didn't prevent them from being quarantined. So late last week, I met with our tech person in the building, Sherry Tierney. Actually, I had sent Ben him and Sherry Tierney just a request for some more materials that we might have on hand so that we could help these interventionists do their job but do it safely. And so anyway, Ben said, let's come together, let's see what we have. And so we're going to be able to use some of our old iPads and some of our old Osmo stands to create document cameras, and so that the interventionist or the special ed teacher can work from their desk, and we can move the kids way back and not use our U-shaped tables like we have been doing. We had LCC, an honor society at LCC reached out to us. I think Lincoln also benefited from this, but they offered to pay for our children to be able to go to the Tulsa Zoo virtually, and they're paying for it all. So I've been in contact with the program director at the zoo, and starting tomorrow for the next 2 days, all of our students will visit the zoo live, but virtually. And the classrooms got to pick what program they wanted. They all, for some reason, selected the very same thing without knowing. They selected, the program's called Zoo to You, and the exact program they picked is called Home Sweet Habitat, and they explore the habitats of animals and what their needs are for survival. So anyway, we're really excited to let the kids be a part of this field trip experience. And then map testing, we spent all last week map testing. We called all of our remote learners and they all came into our building. We gave them a separate space. Some of them were wanting to be in their child's regular classroom, but I didn't feel like that was a good first time for them to be back with their classmates. I felt like it would be too distracting for both parties. We finished up with the students. We're finishing this week with the students that have been quarantined, and we're looking forward to seeing our data reports in January. When it comes to our remote learners and our on-site learners, a mom called me out of the blue last week, and she said, I just want to compliment my son's remote teacher. She said, we've experienced remote learning with her, and we've also been on site. And she said, she is incredibly organized, and she said, my son knew every minute of the day what was coming next. And she said, I just want to compliment her. And I told her that it was a first-year teacher, and you know that it's a big juggle for a normal teacher, but a first-year teacher, even more. And that I passed it on to her. I asked the teachers just today, just kind of get a feel, how's things going with your remote learners? And some of their comments were, they feel like a lot of the remote learners that chose to be that way are getting burned out, and that it's much harder for them to stay focused at this point. One teacher said she's had as many as 9 at one time and as few as 1. And she said all the kids know how to do remote, but not all of them are as successful at home as others. Many teachers said that they felt like their remote learners are losing interest. The last comment was, they said one or the other gets most of my attention, but it's difficult to give my attention to both. I had someone that recently had 3 on-site learners, and she said, I felt like going ahead and, even though they were in the room, I felt like switching them to remote so that I could see all their faces on the screen and not, feel like I was forgetting some of them. And then I also just want to do a shout out publicly to the staff. They are giving tireless dedication to this, keeping everyone safe and going above and beyond every day to juggle so much. They are incredibly flexible and positive, but they are completely worn out. We still have 13 students who are remote by choice. I texted Bonnie just a little bit ago to ask her how many we have quarantined at the moment, and she thinks we have less than 10. So anyway, I also want to thank you guys. I know that none of our jobs are easy right now through all of this, but we all keep plugging along.
Thank you.
Thank you. That trip to the zoo will be fun.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Good evening.
Hi, Mr. Freeze.
You've heard us all talk, and I think I'm going to echo what they all said. Your support is greatly appreciated. I was home quarantined last week for most of the week, and Lori and Linda came over, and that's just starts to top. But when someone's gone, we're all stepping up, and so you feel guilty when you're not there. But I came back to the building late last week, and things were, our teachers are worn out. They are very flexible. It's been a challenging time. With the contact tracing, we had 3 staff members that are starting quarantine today. So now it's my turn to help step up. But our instructional coaches, our administrators, paras, aides, all of us, it's just all hands on deck all the time. And our kids at Guthridge are amazing. They're at that sweet spot age-wise where they know that it's serious. We have almost 100% compliance with wearing our mask every minute of every day and no complaints. There is a couple students who have some real sensory issues that struggle with it, and you have to remind them constantly or at times be a little stern. But I'm amazed at how flexible our kids have been, but worn out's the right word. We will map test right after we come back in January. this is a unique year at Guthrie's. We didn't map test when we started. We usually map test beginning, middle, and end, and try to get that's how we measure growth. We set individual student goals, class goals, and building goals. But this year we didn't map test them in the spring, so we had their winter scores, and we didn't think we wanted to spend 3 or 4 of our days when we just got back using map testing, because it was so much, trying to get them reestablished in our routine, which I think has been really, it was a good decision for the building to have a good routine, but we do struggle. We don't have that where did we start? But we're gonna map test in January. We've got those days lined out, and we'll try to compare Garfield map tests that their students last winter, so we'll kind of go winter to winter. This week, our support staff are doing our DIBELS testing, and when I heard Lincoln's number, that's amazing. That's real growth. And it's a lot of work. You call every student out one at a time. You close read with them and get that information. So to go, from 40 to 90 and 20 to I wrote it down, but that's outstanding. We're DIBELS testing this week. We'll probably hope to have some similar results. I think I went through everything pretty quick.
I think you did.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Any questions for any of the principals? Okay, moving on to old business, 9.0, action on purchase of school bus. The information that we received earlier, we need to make some decisions here today.
So in the.
Questions?
I've got several. I'll just let people go on and ask theirs first.
Okay.
So at the last board meeting, there was the question about mileage, the activity schedule, specifications for buses, some bid information, and then the transportation expenditure sheet. So all of those things have been provided.
Anyone else have any questions before Roger jumps in? Roger, you're up.
By golly, buddy.
All right.
Well, I only see 3 dates here that there were any problems of students being taken out of class early. Now, I know that surely the ADs could have worked some of this out. I don't know how many minutes they were left, and I'm not sure how many buses can go what, but to spend $100,000 on a bus in these times, to me, is ridiculous. Is utterly ridiculous. And then to even ask for not taking the low bid. That's unacceptable.
Well, the low bid that was given were the types of bus that we currently have in the company that we've had. We've had very poor customer service from them since the sale. So that was the reason for that. We've had a lot of issues with warranty work and our mechanic, Steve Vollmer, being paid.
But I've never heard of this before, other than last time. Have we ever discussed this as to why Midwest is not doing this?
Well, there have been issues, in the last couple of years where Rick's reached out, they've not paid for warranty issues. It's required some additional work. They're very good at selling the buses. However, the follow-up wasn't as good. His experience with Bluebird and Kansas Truck Company, or Kansas Truck and Equipment, was a better experience. So that was the mid-range price there. And so that was the recommendation.
All right, as I asked you earlier today, do we have to have this bus?
Well,
Yes or no?
no. We can use the buses that we have with the knowledge that there will be days that students will have to be taken to activities an hour early and left, missing some class time. There may be days that we don't have adequate busing to go to all of the activities and to provide that transportation.
But now, can't this be taken care of by scheduling?
Well, when we've got girls' tennis, cross-country, soccer, volleyball, JV volleyball, and football all at the same time, we don't have any
But
control.
now, some of those we can use vans for. And hopefully with the COVID, will get past that, and we're talking about right now, I mean, the school year's about half over.
Right. And so when they mentioned the large numbers having to quarantine, that's something that we've seen on school. I mean, we're trying our best, but the other day on school buses, we had 10 students that had to quarantine from a bus. And I've had board members that have said, but there's middle school and high school kids that don't get to ride, and we see them walking and it's cold, or it's really hot. And if we had a bus, when we started this 3 years ago, we really didn't know what we needed because Durham had the buses, but their thing was they never had the drivers. And so we have the drivers, we just don't have enough buses. So with an additional bus, we could make sure that kids were in and out on time. Maybe there would be room to socially distance some, and then to pick up a middle school route or a high school route so the kids wouldn't be forced, to walk. Now, the plan was, though, Roger, you're right, the plan was that every other year we would replace a bus. We would take the oldest bus and buy a new bus. And what we found is in 3 years is that we could use one more bus. And so the proposal was not to replace a bus, but to add a bus. Now, every year we have put money back in capital outlay. We have saved for a bus. So there is $100,000 in capital outlay earmarked for a bus. So that money that's been moved to capital outlay can't then be moved back to the general fund and used for something else. It has to be used in capital outlay.
But it can be used, but how about the deal that I brought up last week about the students who are in woodworking who are not being taken care of, and this 100,000 would more than take care of that.
Right. Well, and that's part of that facilities plan for that dry run.
I just get a little impatient here because this facilities plan, the DCS, you know what I think of that. To me, if it's a sense of health and safety, we need to be doing something about it. On those cans of spray paint, and three of you, we've been in those rooms. It says specifically, adequate ventilation, health and safety problems. And I'm not faulting, but I'm saying we want to buy a bus and we're neglecting those classes?
Well, I think we can do both. There's money in capital outlay to do both. There's over $1 million there. So there is to do both. And so with the facilities plan, if the drying room or the ventilation, if that's, a priority, then I think it can be done as well. But
I've talked about this, Lori. Excuse me, I've talked about this for 4 years. Nothing has been done. And then all of a sudden, we want to talk about a $100,000 bus, and then we want to buy air conditioning on it. Hey, there's a lot of people in our community that can't afford a new vehicle. Why does it have to be new? I mean, it's just like priorities. I'm sorry. No way. We need too many things in our schools. This bus, sure, but to me, it's a luxury. It's a luxury. And I better stop.
Thank you, Roger. Any other comments? Questions?
Well, yeah, hold on. So what was the reasoning, refresh my memory on the reasoning for another bus, other than you have money set aside?
Okay. Well, the plan had been 2 years ago, so I've been the superintendent 3 years. The first year we had Durham, and then they said we're going to jack up the rates 30%, so we purchased buses the end of my first year. So the plan had been that every other year we would purchase a new bus and rotate an old one off. So that had been the plan when we started. And so what we found since we've gotten started is that 8 buses, we really could use another bus so that we have adequate transportation for activities, so no one's getting out early.
Well, no, I'm confused, because just a minute ago you said we don't need a new bus.
We can continue to do what we've done, which is take kids out of class early.
Let me rephrase it. We don't need a new bus right now. Maybe towards the end of the year, when we see what the enrollment is, with all this COVID that we have, we may
not be playing sports much longer. I hope not, but then we won't be traveling anywhere.
Well, I think when Roger asked if we had to have it right now, when I said no, my intent was we can use what we have, but that will mean that kids are getting out of school early and leaving early so that we can provide transportation. It will mean that our buses are full, very full, and it'll mean that there's not the flexibility to then offer rides for middle school or high school students who don't have transportation.
But how many kids does that really affect? See, nothing's said about how many kids. We just got dates on there. It might be 4 or 5 kids. I don't know. It's just the whole idea.
Well, and if we went through and looked at what the activities were, I'm sure,
Soccer.
Soccer was
But see, by next year,
Volleyball.
hopefully,
football.
we'll have the shots and everybody, we'll all be okay. And we're sitting here with another bus sitting.
Well, why would we be sitting with another bus? Because won't we be,
Half the year's gone. And
Oh.
in the spring, we're not gonna use as many
I
because they're
thought-
smaller sports.
I thought you meant next year.
Oh, no, next year, but why buy it? We haven't even went through, we've got all this, we got roofs to put on, we got everything, we got a lot of stuff to do.
And we could in the spring add another route quite easily to pick up some students that otherwise aren't picked up, or to spread out and use it for activities, but that's.
But on the other hand, we aren't servicing, if we wanna get into that about adding a route, we need to go farther east to pick up the kids that we can get to farther east, and that's been
Well,
brought up by parents.
Well, they've asked us to go to McCune.
No, okay,
Legally,
but I'm just
I can't
talking
do
about
that.
to Strauss.
So is there an estimated cost on those air conditioners and roofs that we need? You say we need it, is that what you said?
Well, we're at
Are you talking about for the buildings?
the building.
Facilities?
The
Yes.
roof at the middle school is gonna have to be replaced.
I've heard that.
We had, James and I walked up there with architects. We gotta have one here at this building over here. It's gotta be replaced.
Okay.
And if the moisture gets underneath it, I'd probably add 50% more to the cost.
Okay.
Then they strip the whole thing off. So what I'm saying is that there's a lot of unknowns.
What about the air conditioners?
The air conditioners, at which building? So those were replaced at Garfield last year. Those were all taken care of, so it just depends on which building you're looking at and asking about.
I'm looking at, well, Roger's talking about priorities, so,
Well, and that's a part of this facilities plan, and so we don't have the costs from the windows
Okay.
in yet. And so, but we have quite a few of the costs in, but we need to then look at that and prioritize as a group.
okay,
Those
so we don't
things.
have that information yet, but that's forthcoming, correct?
Next month.
It was supposed to be this month, but the meeting was Wednesday.
Okay.
Since we bumped up the board meeting.
So that would
It
help
impacted that.
in regard to priority and cost, as well as the bus issue, in my opinion.
And the bus don't need to be bought. I mean, like I say, for the spring, I don't see why we're in a hurry to do it for the spring. The
Well,
spring has much,
And this particular bid will expire. So we can get other bids, but this one will expire. And you can see the amount of mileage that we've put on our buses since we've gotten them, so.
but I do want to put on the agenda sometime, maybe next month, about the rural route to the east and serving those people in the eastern part of the county.
Any other questions or comments? Do we have, I'm sorry, anybody else? If not, do we have a motion to continue or to not continue? By bus, not by bus?
I move that we not buy the bus and put it off till next year.
We have a motion by Roger, to not buy a bus until next school year. Do we have a second?
I second it.
For next school year.
Right, for next school year. Was that Olivia?
That's correct.
Second by Olivia.
So hold on, so you're not against the bus, it's just a matter of timing, right?
Yeah, wait till next year to discuss it, when we know what everything's gonna be and if we really need it. You see, I'm sure
Okay.
the AD, athletic directors, can maybe squelch around some of all these activities at once.
And
And
they-
maybe if COVID's not a problem, how many vans do we have? 7, 8 vans? And normally, see, they can take tennis and whatever, right, golf,
Depending upon the numbers.
but they can fill them up.
We have a motion on the floor, and a second. Is there any more discussion?
Yeah, so you want to see what the facilities estimates are
Yes,
before you would vote on a bus?
yes. Everything, I mean,
I want to make sure I understand the motion. I don't know that I understand the motion.
I-
I know the motion is no, but I don't know exactly what. I guess it just means we don't take any action on purchasing a bus and we talk about it later? Is that what your motion is?
for next year, just let it go till next year.
That's what I'm hearing.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood the motion, so.
That's my understanding of the motion, is that we do not buy a bus at this time, but we look at it again in the next school year, which would be starting in July of 21. Is that correct?
And-
Roger, is that what you have in mind?
Yes, sir.
And in order to have a bus by the time school starts in August, we'll need to look at it this spring so that it can be delivered in July. If we wait until July to order a bus, the likelihood of it being
So-
here and ready may not transpire.
So if we looked at it in June, before the fiscal year ends, you good with that?
Okay,
She said we'd have to look at it sooner, though, if we wanted to hear by the time
Well,
school
okay,
started.
May.
I mean, I don't know when that is, but we
Okay.
need to figure that out.
Okay, so,
Well, and we'd know if things were better by May with COVID also, hopefully.
What type of bus is this? I mean, is this the activity route or sped or what, where would it fall in the rotation? Do we know
So
that?
this would be a new activity bus. Oh, it's a passenger school bus,
it's
is
a
what it is.
fully loaded bus.
So it's the same as the buses that we currently have now, and it's got a flat front because it's a Bluebird bus, but the only difference would be there would be an air conditioner on it. Not all of our buses.
So if it
currently
was
have
brand
those.
new, we'd probably put it into the rotation of a
Okay.
route bus or something
Right.
and then move one or the other with higher mileage to an
Yeah,
activity
that
bus.
is correct.
so essentially you want to table this until May.
And then I don't know
Is that
what'll
what
be
you're saying,
available in May or the costs.
Roger wants to table it. Laura has just suggested that if we table it, we need to take it up again if we want the bus for fall
Before
soon
the
enough so
fiscal
that we
year.
could order the thing to get it here by fall.
Which,
Yeah.
That's what she said.
And
that's what, it's March or
I-
April,
Yeah,
at the very latest, I would assume.
you want to amend your,
The thing I think we've got to keep in mind, if we are going to put it into a rotation, if we buy a brand new bus, the thing we've got to take into consideration is it's going to be pulled out of use, or one of the existing route buses is going to be put into the activity bus allocation. I mean, I think Lori's point was, yeah, this is, now that we're 3 years into it, we think it's the consensus of at least our route director that we just need additional buses to accommodate the use.
The
And this
transportation.
isn't something that this is a dedicated activity, a brand new bus for only activities. This is just putting in place of the other one. In addition
I think
to,
we learned a lot in the last 2 years about what we need and what we don't need. And I think we have learned that we really do need an additional bus for activities as well as maybe to expand our
To give some other route options.
transportation in the routes, getting more children on buses. I think we've just learned a lot. We didn't know what we were doing 2.5 years ago when we started this process of owning our own buses.
I agree, but we're also learning a lot about how a pandemic affects all that bus routing. And I can understand partially what Roger's saying in regard to some of the other needs that we have going, but I would like to see us vote on this in the next 3 or 4 months before the fiscal year. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, so right now the motion is to not take any action tonight and to look at this again in the 21-22 fiscal year. Is that right, Roger?
Yes, sir.
And that was, second was by Olivia. If anything else, we'll have a vote.
I would just like to make a statement to the extent that being on the facilities committee, there are a lot of other capital expenditures. And I think that's part of your point, isn't it, Roger?
Yes.
It's just so,
I mean.
I think we're just going to have to prioritize it. I'm inclined not to, because I do think if, route director and Lori recommend a bus, I think we need to do it, but I'm also fearful of where a lot of our other capital outlay money is going to have to go in the
Well, our
next
tax-
immediate need.
I'm afraid of what tax collection might be. Who knows? What are we gonna have, Jeff, what's your thought on that as far as money? Crapshoot?
We're gonna have less money going forward, but we'll see how that works out.
And people's gonna want, and people in these times, I think we need to be frugal. People in these times do not have. It's tax paying time. We got people unemployed, people out of work, people are struggling. I just don't feel this is right at all.
Anything else?
Well, hold on, so I'm trying to work with you here. So what David just said and what you said, so I could see buying a bus, but I would wait until we have more information. Well, let me change that. I could see looking at buying a bus after looking at what the facilities are needed, but I wouldn't want to wait until next year. I would do it right before the fiscal year.
Well, yes, but there's no need, we don't have to worry about it for this spring. I mean, as far as using it, you can
All I'm
order
trying to
it.
say is, I wouldn't want to wait until 21, 22. I'd want to do it
Well, for
right before.
using out of that money, correct, Mike? Yes. Or we
sorry,
use that of our other money. Well, all right, he answered it. We'll look at it in whatever, April, just put it off. I mean, it don't have to be in stone, just put it off unless, we got too many other things to do tonight.
Well, but we will have a report next week on
Facilities.
the facilities report.
Yeah.
January,
No, it'll be-
providing we get
It'll
meat
be in
first, yeah.
January. The plan had been for us to meet on Wednesday and have something for next week. We have the majority of it, but then the group didn't meet.
I didn't want to meet
You didn't wanna
because
meet.
it was me. I didn't want to meet because we didn't have everything in. And I wanted to spend some time with this for sure.
Will, okay, when we get that, then we'll have to prioritize, right?
And that's going to take some time.
And then you have, and then the money part comes with.
Well,
what we
and then the
prioritize.
bids, we don't know how accurate this is. This is just DCS.
Well, and part of it is when we had the people that came and did the tuck pointing and all of that from Fort Scott. So those numbers are in there as well.
There's estimates on a lot
Right,
of it.
Estimates.
it's all estimates.
Well, once they get into it, it could be just like a roof. It's a whole different story.
Okay, again, the motion is to delay until 21, 22. Do you want to amend that motion, Roger? Is that how you want to go?
Well, let's just go that way, and then if we have to, we can use it out of this year's money or next year's, correct? No?
Yeah, capital outlay.
Yeah,
We
capital
use it
outlay.
whenever-
Yeah, well, they
Yeah.
use it anytime.
Yeah,
right.
but the bus would be for use for next year,
But let's
next
look
year.
at it in April.
whatever it takes.
Well, that makes more
That
good
gives-
sense. If we don't have too many expenses, it does, that's a good amount of time to hopefully get it for the next
I
year.
didn't say buy it, I said let's look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it gives January, February, March, April,
And there is a possibility we could buy a used bus, who knows?
yeah.
Just talk about it again.
All right, so again, the motion is we have to act on this delay until 21, 22. We can bring it back later, but the motion is to delay until 21, 22 fiscal year.
So
Correct.
basically, you need to amend, right?
No,
Well,
No.
I guess by acclamation, we can bring it back in
Yeah.
April, but
All right.
be too hard.
all right. All in favor of the motion? Aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye. I think that passes 5-2. Okay? Moving on to new business. Item 10.0 is accept donations. Lori, you want to run through those for us,
I
please?
sure will. Donations are listed on page 31 in your packet. Very generous things were given this month, so in the month of November. So to the district office, these were the Parsons Educational Foundation mini grants that were given out. The total of those was $13,561.60, but I want to go through them really quickly. We're fortunate that we have an education foundation that is so supportive. At Garfield in third grade, Shelby Liska, they donated classroom library books for her classroom library valued at $500. Guthridge, Shannon Miller, fifth grade teacher, got books for her classroom library valued at $500. Middle school science, that was all three science teachers, Mr. Curl, Mr. Ozier, Mrs. Freeze, did some glow germ antiseptic kits. Those were valued at $717.60. Middle school and high school, Jamie Wells, and she got a MobiMax license that can be used in both of those buildings for $959. High school music, Aaron Burke, got 6 electric pianos. So we're going to have a class on piano, $2,500 for those. High school 9th and 10th grade English books in Linda Moore's class, 100 copies of Long Way Down for $1,000. High school 9 through 12 grade science, Leanne Wiles, an iPad and Apple Pencil for grading valued at $428. And then multiple grades, Trevor Miserel from here at the high school, half of this project was funded by the Education Foundation. It's builder spaces, tech labs for STEM that he's going to do at Guthridge, and a couple at the middle school as well. So that's $6,957. So that total to the district office was $13,561.60 from the Education Foundation. Garfield had a donation from PTO, mini grants for Christmas, $200. Lincoln Elementary, the Kids Fund at Tank Connections, donated money for student needs, $500. Parsons Public Library donated $20 for crafts for students. PTO donated money for Christmas books for students valued at $320 for a total of $840 at Lincoln. At Guthridge, there were 2 donations in the month of November. Tank Connection, which is that Kids Fund, donated $500 for student needs. PTO donated $200 towards Christmas, so $700 there. Parsons Middle School, Knowltonsmeyer donated theater donations valued at $200. At the high school, Ohio Pile Prints Incorporated for the Positive Reinforcement Program, $20.22. Stevens Vending Corporation, Positive Reinforcement Program, $25.53. Pepsi for scholarships, $1,000. Roger Duroni for the welding program, $200. Roger Duroni for the football program, banquet dinner donation, $324.50. The anonymous donors for the PHS Honor Flight, $520. Kevin Wiles, PHS Honor Flight, $100. So at the high school, the donations received were $2,190.25, for a total of donations to the district in November of $17,691.85. I'd recommend that you approve those donations.
Thank you. Very generous community.
Very generous.
I so approve.
Motion by Roger,
Second.
second by Lou. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Carry 7-0. 10.1, first reading of the course description book.
Okay, so on the course description book, I just wanted to go real quick. When I talked to Olivia today, when we visited before with questions, she had a really good question about a class. And it's back on page 35, an African American history class. And she said, well, who's teaching it? How many kids are enrolled? What curriculum? I thought, that's good. So I called the high school, and there are 3 classes in the history or social science that are going to be new. So far, no one's enrolled in these classes because we haven't taught them yet. So Caleb Reed has reached out, and he's going to teach the World War I and World War II courses, and Lonnie Corton is going to teach that African American history course. And so what they're currently doing is gathering materials and curriculum, and then they'll take enrollment. So
Lonnie who?
Lonnie Corton, she currently teaches history at the high school. Just escaped me for just a minute. So those are our current history teachers. So that is new. And the other class that's new, that's not in here yet, is in the business department. It'll come in the second reading. Mr. Barmiller would like to do a sports and entertainment class in the business department. And I think that was something that he thought would be good based on his experience, and kids would be excited about that as well. And the other music class that's new is the piano class.
It's in here.
Yeah, the music, I think, is the piano class in there?
Sure.
Good, I think it should be. What
That's
page?
why I didn't know why some were new and some were.
Well, and I think this one has just come up within the last week, the one that Mr. Barmiller recommended, so there may be a couple changes, but the piano class is in here.
Is on page 30. The piano.
And that's,
Yeah, it's in here.
and so it'll be the other half of guitar, so you can take a guitar class and learn to play the guitar, you can take a piano class and learn to play the piano. And then we have those 3 new history courses that will be offered as well. So they don't typically enroll until February. Otherwise, things had remained the same in the course handbook. Sometimes the names of courses may change based on CTE requirements. They may tweak the name, but other than that, it's my understanding this was very similar with the addition of those new classes.
Any other questions?
Yes, on page 14, very bottom, newspaper, 21st Century Journalism. Is this still a go? 2 student newspapers will be created and published in the Parsons Sun each semester?
We do not have a journalism teacher at this point, but here, we don't have a journalism teacher.
In order to teach it, you have to be journalism certified, and we do not have anyone on staff with that journalism
Certification.
credential.
And it isn't a praxis that you can take. A lot of times, if I want to be a fax teacher, I could take a praxis or a test and be a fax teacher. They don't offer that for journalism. You have to have a degree in journalism in order to
But
teach
we left
it.
it in there so that when we do get someone, then we can put it back in our offerings.
Because I remember when Peter Cook was here, he said someone can work under me because I'm the journalist, and you know how that game goes.
Yeah, and that's changed in about the last 4 or 5 years. That has a journalism degree, no endorsement.
Okay.
Which kind of,
Page 25, LCC English pre-composition? Is that new, or is that a,
That was added this year for students who we didn't think were quite ready for Comp 1, Comp 2 to get their senior English. So LCC has a pre-comp class. It's non-college credit. And then you do pre-comp in the fall and Comp 1 in the spring.
and they have something similar for math as well?
Yeah.
The Algebra 3?
Do Algebra 3 in the fall and then college algebra in the spring.
College algebra in
Yes.
the spring.
Any other questions?
All right, so we'll have the next reading of that next time.
Okay, moving on to 10.2, action on 7th grade Kansas history books.
All right, I'm going to turn that over to Linda.
Unfortunately, our Kansas history books are from 2005. There's only one company that publishes books. They do it for nearly every state. We don't have any kind of online program that goes with our Kansas history books. And I just think as we go to second semester, not knowing what we're going to have, and with all of our remote kids, this would give an opportunity. If we go ahead and purchase this now, then we would have it to start second semester. So I'd recommend that we go ahead and go with this new, it's for $6,683. And it would be for a 7-year subscription, so about $1,000 a year.
Is it a book itself?
It is a book, and it's an online book also.
So there's a hard copy as well as online
And then
materials.
there's teacher's materials, not
Yes.
quite like the science and the math, but
No,
similar.
it's not as detailed
Deep.
as the science and the math. And they have to have it, Kansas history to get out of middle school.
Right,
It's a requirement.
that's good.
The teacher has been reviewing it and has done some, he's looked at the whole program.
Who is a teacher?
Mike Kroll.
Any other questions for Linda?
I so move.
By Roger,
I'll second that.
second by Lou, versus Kansas history books. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carry 7-0. 10.3, discussion on staff, student, and parent First 9 weeks survey results.
Okay, and these were included in your view on November the 20th. It feels like first 9 weeks ended a long time ago. It really does. And so we aren't ready for the next survey for second 9 weeks because that won't be over. Second 9 weeks won't be over until the middle of January. So when we went through and looked and kind of gathered the family surveys, I feel like they were overwhelmingly positive. We had 254 surveys that were completed district-wide, so the participation wasn't high. But people did fill them out. So I've included all of them. I mean, 96% of the families felt like they had what they needed to be successful. They felt like their instruction was appropriate and where it was. Over 90% felt school was taking appropriate safety precautions and able to keep their children safe. So that's for family. And for staff, about 85% felt like, okay, I've got what I need to deliver my instruction. What we're doing right now, about 81% thought, okay, it's the right amount, it's the right difficult level. They well over 90, right at 95% felt like we were taking appropriate safety precautions, and 96% felt like we were making the decisions in school to keep children and staff safe. So.
I have some questions that I've asked. I've been at 3 Zoom meetings with the Kansas Association of School Boards this week. What were some of the specific, and we talked about this in our Zoom meeting, about tech issues. What were some of the tech issues that we've had, and have we resolved any of them or all of them?
Tech issues with what?
That's from the survey.
Well, some of the,
You mean
I think a big concern that we had was our Chromebooks, and that hasn't, that's a big concern. It hasn't been resolved yet because they're not here. And so that is.
Well, I heard there were classes that weren't able to get online for an hour or two.
Well, and there could have been those, but that wasn't, these were the surveys that were sent out with the questionnaires for the family and for the staff. So
That's what I've got. That's what I've got.
Okay.
Do you want to ask the principals about?
So I guess I'm confused because I don't see a technology.
Never mind.
Okay.
I just know.
I don't see a technology
I just know one thing,
question.
that when I was back in the office the other day, Belinda was struggling, or she was working on, she has to line each keyboard up with each computer so that the child has it, and they have to keep it together.
Yeah, because they have the iPads.
Rest.
Yeah.
Very time consuming. I mean, and she still does not have a phone in her room.
And has she filled out a ticket for that?
She's told them, I'm sure she has. I mean, there's been no phone in her room at all. And she turns around and uses the one in the lab, but there's no phone in her office at all.
Isn't the lab in her office the same room?
No, she's in with that little room we have.
She's moved into the
prep
science room? Oh, into the prep room.
She's in the prep room. She always was. She was going to move into the lab.
Right.
But because of the people that use that during the day, but no, I know she's asked about it, but nothing's.
I was not aware of that, so I'll make sure she's filled out a ticket. Our ticket system has worked, I think.
These were from the comments from that survey.
Oh, the
From the
comments,
teachers.
okay.
And one of the, several comments were, there were tech issues. I was wondering if you knew what they were.
Was it family or staff? I think for some, it could be the Chromebooks weren't in. For some, it's difficult for them to get on, or they needed a hotspot, or their internet may or may not work.
All right, so where are we with the Chromebooks?
So the Chromebooks have been pushed back. They should be here by the end of January for the teachers. The students all have their Chromebooks.
Yeah, and
because
that was teacher, yeah.
Right, because so what we did was the teacher Chromebooks that have been handed out at the middle school and at the high school were repurposed and issued to students because teachers have a current desktop system. They have a desktop with everything, with the exception of the ability to pick it up and carry it around and move around the room. So the staff Chromebooks for the middle school and high school have been pushed back.
So there are no streaming issues. I hear this from other teachers from other districts.
Our bandwidth is pretty good. I mean, Ben
So
has
the
probably been.
answer is no.
I'm not going to say that there's never one, but I don't think that's a consistent problem.
Another thing that came up was, what's this Tuesday held?
Okay, so on Tuesdays during first 9 weeks, the expectation at the elementary levels were they had Tech Tuesdays. And so the kids would then take home their device on Tuesday nights and they would practice using their device at home. And so what we found was that some teachers were then getting on with the kids in the evening and spending their evening answering questions and doing those kinds of things instead of just having the student practice ahead of time. So during second quarter, we did not do Tech Tuesdays at the elementary level because we felt like first 9 weeks our students had had ample experience practicing that.
I have one more thing, and this came up with the KSB conversations regarding more virtual options, possibly from Greenbush, like Insight Kansas, Kansas Connections, the Khan Academy, and what about using the LCC Student Success Center for some kids for GED classes? Have we explored any of that yet?
GED classes are available at LCC.
Well, I'm
And so-
just saying, it looks like a pretty good option for some kids that are online so that they don't have to have a remote teacher from the school district, but have it from LCC. Because, in other words, these are some canned virtual classes that are approved by the state of Kansas. I'm just wondering, have we taken any time to look into those?
No, and I don't know what that would be in regard to funding. I know what Greenbush is offering.
Well, that was the other issue that came up. I said, we talked about losing some funding, and the Kansas Department of Education needs to look at that if we want to do a better job of online learning, period.
Yeah. I think if the State Department wants for people to use canned programs or to use a virtual program that does not involve a live teacher in a school district, funding is what the issue is there. Because we just don't receive the funding for virtual students that we do for a student that it either attended remotely or in person for us this year.
Anything else? Hearing none, we'll move on to 10.4, action on assistant superintendent search. Last month, we accepted Linda's resignation, and we need to now move forward. If we're going to have an assistant superintendent, we need to move forward on that pretty quickly to get in the pay. As of Wednesday, I believe it was, there are 25 superintendent spots open right now, and they're projected between 50 and 75 for the year. We need to get to moving if we're going to have an assistant superintendent, get us a good quality person. We need some discussion on that, and then action if it's so desired.
Are we gonna, is this where we talk about what we would like for our district? Is that what you're talking, no?
I think we're just saying we're gonna search.
Oh, okay.
Open it up.
Yes, the search for superintendent or not, assistant superintendent. And once we've done that, then we can divide out the job duties, whether what the assistant superintendent would have as his or her responsibilities, and what Laura would have what her main responsibilities. Knowing that they're going to share a lot of those responsibilities anyhow.
I make a motion to move forward with the search. And I think probably as part of that, we need to have Lori and Linda put together a job description for that assistant superintendent. That would need to be part of the ad anyway. And so I say we move forward with the search.
I would second that.
Motion by Jeff, second by Lou. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carry 7-0. 10.5, action to appoint board members to the negotiation team, and also to allow the superintendent to contract with a professional negotiator if we need that person. And the last couple of years, we have not used that, I don't believe, right, Lori?
We have not.
We do need to get a couple of people to volunteer to be on the negotiating team, or we could appoint somebody.
all volunteer.
So,
Lou, did I hear you say yes?
yes,
And Jeff?
Okay, we've got Jeff and Lou willing to step forward again. Anybody else want to put their name in a hat? Hearing none, all in favor, I guess we did motion, don't we?
So moved.
Motion by David,
Second.
second by Olivia. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those same sign. Carry 7-0. Congratulations. 10.6, appointed members to the calendar committee.
Olivia, do you want to serve again?
Yeah, I did such a fabulous job in 2020, didn't I?
I don't know, I was just asking.
Just think how the calendar's gone.
Yeah, well, we're
We've had
gonna
a lot
change
of
it sometime
calendars.
You know
too.
what I'm saying?
We've
Yeah,
had a lot of calendars.
Yeah. You had a
We
tough
have.
year.
You did. It was, let's hope that
I'll
next
do
year's
it.
calendars.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
It's harmless.
I'll make a motion to appoint Olivia to the calendar committee again for next year.
I'll second that.
Moved by Jeff, second by Lou. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those same sign. Carry 7-0. Congratulations, Olivia. You do a great job in that committee.
And this year, Olivia,
10.7, action to attend the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. Where are you going to explain that to us?
so yes, that's included in page 33 of your packet. That's what we've been doing with the 10 days leave, COVID pay, those kinds of things. It expires December 31st. It's possible Congress will get it together and, approve it on past that, but they may not.
So our teachers get a 10-day COVID, if they have to quarantine, they do not have to use their sick leave, right?
That is correct.
And they have 10 COVID days.
And they have 10 COVID days. Now, if they remote teach from home, if they're able to do that, to remote teach from home, then it doesn't count against their sick time or their 10 days of COVID leave.
Mark Tellman in the advocacy meeting just the other day, Zoom meeting, said, Pete, this isn't going to be extended.
Right. So what we're asking is that if we would, in good faith, extend this for the remainder of the year for our staff, so that if they were placed on quarantine or did contract COVID, it would cost them their personal time in order to have the time off.
So I want to make sure I understand the practice then, now that we're talking about this. So how many on average subs are we employing roughly a day, or a range number, whether it's 10 or 20 or 30 or whatever, per day because of staff being gone for this purpose?
Okay,
Do
I'm
we
gonna
know?
I'm gonna pull up my front line. It has to see my face.
So just for remote.
For purposes of this act. So in essence, we are paying them, the subs, and
The teacher.
since the employee is not using PTO, we're paying them too.
That is correct. So today, just for example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So today it was 10. Is that what you have when you go through and count on Frontline? Oh, yours is thinking. So I would say 10 is probably average, not because first quarter, first 9 weeks, we didn't have it at all. But I would say second quarter, we've averaged probably 10. Some days it may be 12. It just depends on who's quarantined. Now, the staff that we currently have that are quarantined, the majority of those, if I go through, there's been one school exposure. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The 8 others, so there were just 9 today. The 8 others were outside of school exposure, whether that be a home exposure, someone that they live with, or someone they went.
But we still have to pay them.
That is correct.
So on average, we're paying,
Double.
if we got 10, we're paying $1,000 a day out of our pockets every day that happens. So that's like $5,000 a week, just on top. So we just need to know about that budgetary wise, that's what's happening.
And we can do it where, they use their paid time off.
Yeah, I mean, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure I understood
is,
it.
Yeah, you understand, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's
You
an
got it.
average of 10 a day, that's about $1,000 a day.
And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah,
That'll dip down,
it'll go up.
and then
so,
it'll go up.
yep. So,
I mean,
okay.
it's, so,
Lori, is this refunded or is this come out of our budget?
this will come out of our budget. And see, part of it is, a lot of places get tax breaks for it, but schools don't. So when Senator Moran he did a visit the other day via Zoom with all the Kansas superintendents, that was something that they were looking at in Washington, is some kind of funding for the states, for the schools, and for this, but they've not done that yet.
So it's an unfunded mandate.
It isn't, and there are a lot of those in education.
So this-
Absolutely,
This
yes.
is for
Just another one,
certified
yes.
teachers only, correct?
Teachers.
Right. Now, we have,
We still pay the other people too,
we still pay the other people
but we
too.
don't have to pay for their replacement.
Right.
Well, that's what I
Uh-huh.
wondered, if there was a
That's-
sub deal for
No,
the aides
so,
and para.
so like,
Yes,
let's say a maintenance person had to go on quarantine. So we would pay them their 10 days of COVID leave, but then we wouldn't have to pay someone to do the maintenance guy's job.
Yeah.
But like a teacher, if I'm a kindergarten teacher and I have to take
I
COVID
understand
leave,
that. But
yeah,
aides or paras, do we do any of that for them now?
Yes, they get
Yeah.
the same.
they get the
10
same
days.
thing,
But they don't get a sub.
but they don't have a sub. So it's not double the
Two
cost.
Oh, I thought we subbed for some that got subbed for some.
We don't get subs for aides and paras typically because we can't even find subs
Okay.
for teachers.
I thought we were getting some
Well,
of those.
sometimes we have an aide or a para cover the classroom because we can't find a substitute
okay.
teacher. That's been the struggle the last 2 or 3 weeks. Well, last couple weeks for sure.
Maria said we get, we can use COVID money.
Right.
For it. Or ESSA funds.
Up through,
And we can use those through September 2022. And so we could use COVID money to pay for that, to pay, for those subs and that coverage. And I think it's a relief for staff to know that is there. So
I thought that COVID money had to be spent by December 31st.
that's the Spark money. That was the money that was allocated through the county. So that money had to be
All right,
spent
so you're saying we would use the COVID money
It's
to
the-
cover this?
Right, ESSER funds.
we could.
We could.
How much money is left in that? Do you know, Linda?
No,
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
So.
That's all right.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, it's still a little unclear.
What's unclear?
We don't know how much COVID money there is to possibly cover
I can
this.
ask Tanya right now.
That's
I mean.
what I'm just doing.
Okay.
She's,
Well, I don't think
don't-
we want to delay action on this.
I don't think so.
I don't think that would be appropriate. I think we just need to be aware as a board that how this works and that we're spending money out of our pocket, that whatever the source. We just need to be aware, but I don't know that I'd delay extending this. I don't think that's probably the right thing to do. It's not socially
think so.
responsible right now.
No, I don't either. I was just curious how much money was left in
Yeah,
that
so was I.
fund. Back us up.
Very good.
Are you making
Will.
a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to extend the FFCRA practice.
I second.
I think we need to put a stop date to it,
I would say.
The end of this.
the end of the school
academic year.
Yeah, end of the academic year.
Yeah, end of the academic year, that's fine, yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Louis, I think, who had the second on that?
I did.
Are you okay with that change?
Sure.
Okay, we have a motion to extend the FFCRA through the end of this academic year. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Carried 7-0. 10.8 is action on the KSHSAA limited fans.
Okay, so I don't know if the guys are still out there. Okay. So, effective December the 10th through January the 28th, interscholastic education will allow for the attendance of up to 2 parents or guardians per participant, as allowed by the local board or the health department, so.
And again, Lori, I want to correct that. It is participant family, so if there's 2 kids in the family, there's still only 2 tickets.
Right, participant family, you're right, because the other day there was a set of twins, but the 2 of them only got 2 tickets, so.
Yes.
All right, gentlemen, if you have any wise words, things you want to recommend?
When we figured up 2 tickets per participant, for our group, we were at about 274 tickets, or 274 people, because we counted participants then as occupants of the building. We counted our gate workers. So without visitors, we were over that 20% threshold that I think we probably want to be around. Now, that's why Thursday was a good little test run for us, because we found out that the band parents didn't use that opportunity, or at least if the band parents are listening, the kids didn't give them the opportunity. I don't think we're going to have near that number if we do two. But doing two, if everyone uses it and the visitors use it, the place will be way too full. But like I said, we have to plan that people are going to use them and the off chance that we have a big crowd for some night. So I guess I think we're here to answer your questions on kind of what we've done
And then,
what you
because
think.
the board can't say that they want more, but they can say that they want less. And so I want for the board to let us know, do you want them to do 2 per participant family? Do you want 1? Do you want none? What?
I'm gonna vote for none, because that's just the way I feel about it, but, I'm just one vote. I think that Acacia shouldn't have reversed their decision, they did, but as a board member, I can vote my own decision, and that's what I'm gonna vote, so.
Here's the dilemma. Let's say some school districts like Coffeyville are remote for their high school, middle school. So if I were to vote to go for remote for the high school, middle school, how would I defend having kids in extracurricular activities? Help me out with that.
Go ahead. I believe Coffeyville's still having extracurricular activities. Are they not? I mean,
They are.
yeah, so.
Well, let me strike that. If 503, if we voted to go remote for high school, middle school, how would we defend having kids and parents at a ball game?
School itself is not optional, and all kids are expected to participate in school. Extracurriculars are optional. We had the talk with our family just yesterday when we had another quarantine in our house. And we decided after that quarantine, we're not going to participate in that extracurricular anymore, because it was too risky. So those are the conversations that parents can have with their kids as far as extracurriculars. School's not an option, though. You can't opt out of school like you can out of an extracurricular.
No,
I don't know if that helps, Lou, or not.
No, it does, but on the other hand, from all the Zoom meetings, and Mike was at a couple of Zoom meetings that I was in, and what the doctors were saying is the hospitals are getting so full, it's inevitable that eventually some of these sports are going to shut down. And as a board member, I want to make sure that Roger brought it up before, health and safety of our kids and our patrons is number one in the book.
Well, and I can say when our league put out a vote for it, Mr. Holtzman down at Lebec County said, how do you feel about the fans, no fans? How do you feel about the appeal? We voted that we didn't want to vote for the appeal. We wanted it to stay at no fans like it was originally.
Yeah.
There was us and 2 other schools that felt that way. 4 other schools felt like they should have the 2 tickets or the 2 whatever. And so our league voted yes in that, although that wasn't our desire.
You still one of the 2 fans?
No, we did not want to overrule the board of directors. We felt like it should have stayed with the original decision.
Might it go back if it gets worse?
It might. It might. The board of directors would have to call another special meeting. I do not see that happening. Mike can speak more to that, but I doubt the board of directors is going to reconvene again. They did it. There was an appeal. They reconvened a second time. They overturned it. I think that's where they are until the 28th.
If I could speak to that a little bit, because I'm on that board. When we first started this with no fans, I received approximately 300 emails over a 1-week period begging us to let the kids play. The first was no games until the 15th of January, begging us to let the kids play. And even if we don't get to watch our kids play, we're okay with it as long as they get to play. I voted for the kids play, which had no fans. Over the next 4 or 5 days, I received probably another 200 emails ripping me apart. I got, I think, 5 emails that said that was the right decision. The rest of them was, boy, you're wrong, you're making us not watch our kids play. And as a matter of fact, I heard from 5 or 6 school districts, Board of Education, that said, let the parents in. So when we voted again last week, I voted to let the 2 in. Wasn't what I really want, but I followed the wishes of those other boards of education that we'll take care of it. It's very tough. I would tell you the board of directors, it was a 3-hour meeting on one issue, on one item, how much discussion there was. It's a very tough thing. I've been to a couple sites since this passed, and social distancing has not been a problem, masks have not been a problem, but it can certainly become one in a hurry. I know that Mr. Swanson had a little issue, I believe, on Thursday night. One person or 2 didn't want to wear their mask, but there is an option when they don't want to wear the mask, and there's the door, folks, and you're not welcome back. Jeff, I agree. I'd rather we didn't have fans there. But let me tell you an example of what happened this last week. A young man got injured, seriously injured in a basketball game. Thankfully, parents were there. Had it happened the week before, they wouldn't have been there. This was injury that actually required surgery on Sunday morning.
And a lifeline.
So, those are going to happen, and that was the biggest excuse I got from parents is, what if my child gets hurt? I want to be there to take care of my child. I understand that. We've all been, if we've had kids like we all have, we've been in that situation where we want to be there for our kids, and we want to be there, especially if they get hurt. Getting hurt's not very often, but once in a while it does happen. But this was a really serious injury that happened to a young man, and thankfully his parents were there. But I understand Eric and Rob's concerns about the number of people that will be there, how we're going to social distance. I think one of the things we probably have to do if we keep the tickets is we're going to have to ask folks to, if you're not here to watch, particularly the last game of the night, would you mind leaving to allow for us to do more safely social distance?
That's what a lot of league schools are doing. Pittsburgh sent something today that said, parents, please stay for only your game that you're there to watch. That would help tremendously.
It would.
So
that would bring the numbers way down.
It would bring the numbers way down for each one.
Exactly.
That aux gym is going to be an issue. We don't have the Walmart counters outside saying 2 in, 2 out with their little pads. That gym could get full, but if it's just the 2 that are there to watch just that game, I think we can do it. So if the question is, can we handle 2? Yes. Can we handle 1? Yeah, and we can handle 0 too. 2 might get a little bit full and it might be a little uncomfortable, but we really don't know until we try it.
Right.
But
And if everyone
we're prepared to do whatever you guys want to vote for. We can do 0, 1, or 2.
Well, I'm going to quote some of the doctors that were on that Kansas Association School Board meeting. They were really adamant about being overwhelmed in their hospitals and not having enough ICU beds. They also said to Keisha, you're being irresponsible with your decisions. That's not me saying it, that's the doctor saying it. So I'm just...
One doctor said that. One doctor said that.
Mike, I know you're on Keisha and you're getting really defensive. I'm just telling you what I heard. And you heard the same thing. So I've heard it from other doctors too. I'm just saying we need to be cautious. We need to, Lori sent us a video, watch this Jerry so-and-so putting the other guy's glasses on. Well, I'm putting the other guy's glasses on. I don't work in the hospital, but I'm glad I don't. And this is a tough decision. I would love to see kids play basketball and all these other sports. However, I do not want someone to get deathly sick on our watch.
Okay, so Eric, right now you are suggesting we go ahead and follow the KSHSAA guidelines?
Well, what I'm saying is, we can handle, if this board votes 2, we can make that work. We can handle that. If you vote 1 or 0, we can make any of those work.
Okay, what's your wishes, folks?
And this is just between when and when again now?
From now until January 28th, January 29th, then local health department and boards make a decision.
How many games do we have up until January 28th?
Now, this includes wrestling too, correct?
This includes wrestling too, yes.
All activities. It's getting canceled every time I.
Yeah.
Well, it feels like it.
Wrestling's not, and in fact, I don't know, Rob, did you mention wrestling? Like, we put a pause on wrestling today. They're not wrestling, they're not in the weight room, they're doing outside conditioning. They're doing, if they do indoor conditioning, they will be masked the whole time because the numbers in wrestling are going up quickly across the state. So as far as basketball goes, we have this game this Saturday with Mulvane, just girls. And then up until January, I think we only have 2 more home games because 4 of ours are past that January 28th deadline. So we may only have 2 in January.
Looks like,
Maybe 3, but I think it's 2.
looks like we've got the 8th and the 15th of January, and then there's a tournament the week of the 18th for varsity girls, and then, looks like varsity boys, a tournament in Frontenac at the
That
end of
tournament, we're not in that
Oh,
anymore.
we're not in that anymore,
Nope.
it's still on the calendar.
But the tournaments are not here, right? So that wouldn't be our decision.
No.
Looks like it's just 2
Two games.
home games, the 8th and the 5th, nope, the 15th is away,
And everything's being live streamed, right?
yes.
Yes, we were
Are we doing
live,
the live stream 503?
we were live streaming all of the Ox Gym games. We were doing that, but our tech guy is now quarantined until the 1st of November, or 1st of November. That's a long quarantine. The 1st of January. So he will not be able to go on the road and do the games in the Ox Gyms at the other places. So if you watch this weekend, Wichita Collegiate provided the live stream.
Oh, well, look at that, they're
Jonathan
gonna be able
stopped
to
on
do
the
it.
glass and said he might be going on the road. That's new to me. Thanks, Jonathan. Wichita Collegiate's was a tough stream. I got lots of text messages saying it wasn't working, but we're gonna do our best to cover everything we can, Olivia.
So to get back to it, we only have 1 game in January, home.
Two.
2.
2.
And we have 1 wrestling scheduled on the 22nd.
But you said there was only 1.
Okay, so in January, we have the 8th at home. Looks like to me the 15th is at Chanute. And then we're not going to the Southeast Tournament? Or we are?
The
That's
girls are going to the Southeast Tournament.
That's
We
not
do not have
here.
we're short 3 boys games right now. Because Frontenac
Kicked us out of the.
didn't
out of
kick us
the-
out. They had to cut their tournament down to 4 teams, and they went with the 4th that had been there the
Choose
longest.
us.
So yeah, I guess they did kick us out.
kind of, you know.
So are you looking to replace
Yes.
that then?
Looking to replace, it'll probably just be 3 games. It probably won't be another tournament. It'll just be, we're looking for 3 basketball games right now.
So Rob, are all SEK schools doing all extracurricular activities now, or have some of them shut down some of their extracurricular activities?
As far as I know, everybody's still participating in extracurricular activities.
Debate, wrestling, for
Yes.
instance,
And
music.
everyone is going with the 2, with the Kasb recommendation in our league.
But at Frontenac, do they adhere to the 2 parents too, or can they go different?
They have to. But
Have to.
But that's for their tournament, or that's a 4-team tournament now, so I don't know what they would do there.
Okay. So we're only talking about for us, our home only.
Right.
That's the only thing
Which
we
would
have
be-
any control over.
I believe 3 home basketball games and 1 scheduled wrestling event.
And that's from now until the end.
Right.
Of
Well,
the
that's till the 28th, till
Right.
it goes to local control.
What's your wishes, folks?
So the Kansas Associated School Board Zoom meeting talked about risk versus benefit. You want to elaborate on the risk versus the benefit on this, help us out? Because you said
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
extracurricular, well,
I know.
Didn't know anything about
you said
Risk-
extracurricular was a choice.
We want our kids to be able to continue with the extracurriculars.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But there is a risk.
Absolutely there
Okay.
is. And yeah, as a family, we've accepted that risk for our two boys playing basketball.
Okay.
The one wrestler we have in our family, like I said earlier, he's chosen when he gets off of his second quarantine,
Okay.
we're not going to assume that risk anymore for him. Anytime that you open it up to outside people coming into the gym, you're going to assume some risk. They were masked the other night. The two instances I had, they weren't real happy with me, but they adhered and wore their mask the rest of the night. I just had to go up and say, you need to have your mask on. They got grumpy. I just said, it's not a choice, thank you. And they did fine after that. I will say none of them were Parsons people. Thank you for the Parsons parents for doing it right. I appreciate that.
But wasn't was it their people?
It was two people that shouldn't have been there. We found out afterwards. Officials, parents, and the next day, the officials got a memo from Kasb saying that is not allowed. But of course, we were the first. We hosted on Thursday. We were like one of the first places in the whole state to host. And the other was someone with their team who was a physician and didn't have his mask on. Go figure. But at least we dealt with it. I don't know if Mulvane had admin there because Rob and I were the ones that dealt with them, so.
Right. I didn't see anybody.
But if they'll mask and social distance, it should be fairly safe. However, it is a risk and you do assume some risk.
But
Well, it's a risk when we're here at our board meeting.
it is.
Absolutely.
That is correct.
I move that we accept Keisha's two-parent/guardian. Follow what Keisha says.
Motion by Joanne?
I'll second it.
I'm trying to catch who was.
It was me.
Olivia.
Olivia.
Okay, motion by Joanne, second by Olivia, to follow KSHSA guidelines. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No?
Abstain.
Okay, was that 4-3?
It was fourth.
4-3, passes with a 4-3 vote. Okay. We are ready for 10.9, discussion and action on second semester learning plan.
Okay, so that was included in your view on Friday, that packet. Before we do, okay, so second semester doesn't actually end until second semester. First semester doesn't end until January the 15th, so second semester does not begin until January the 19th, and then runs through May the 28th. So something that I probably should have put on here before, this is, when we come back that 2 weeks from Christmas, from January the 4th until January the 15th, to finish out second semester, I would like to recommend that for our middle school and high school students from January the 4th to January the 15th, they move to a remote format with the opportunity to have CTE by appointment and special education by appointment during those 2 weeks to allow for the influx of cases from Christmas and New Year's. Everyone's going to celebrate 2020 being over. I would suspect it's going to be a big celebration, that it's finished. That would allow school, then second semester would start in person on the 19th. So that would allow more than 14 days for us to see quarantine-wise, number-wise, and also allow us to stabilize our current substitute pool. So that if we did need substitutes, they would be available to then work in the elementary schools. So that's my first recommendation, but that's prior to second semester. Okay? So do you want?
Okay, so the high school teachers will continue to work a normal
Middle
day.
school and high school, they would work a normal day. My recommendation is they'd work a normal day, they'd come to work, they would come to their classrooms, and for those 2 weeks, they would teach remotely. So instead of having students in and out, especially after the holidays and with those bumps in numbers that we can assume would happen, they would be expected to report and to work in their classroom.
Okay, now what if though, one of those parents, single parent, double parent, if the kids were sick for some reason, would they be able to remote teach from home?
Are you talking?
You mean if the teacher?
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
Our teachers.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, if they have a child that is sick at home, they probably need to take care of that child and wouldn't be able to remote teach
Yeah.
from home.
Okay.
So,
I
I
didn't know
mean-
if that was an option. If it was an older child, middle-aged child, I'm just curious if that was an option.
And it'd probably, sometimes you could do it and sometimes you probably couldn't.
Right.
you know.
I just wondered if that
Right.
would be
Be
an
op-
option.
yeah.
That's the only
Right.
thing I just.
I think the expectation would be, that for those 2 weeks, we have not seen the numbers. And we have that little blip at Lincoln where we saw quite a few quarantines and a lot of it on the bus. We've not seen the quarantine numbers, and there hasn't been the amount of subs and changes at the elementary level. So I would, I'd like to finish, I'd recommend that we finish the semester after Christmas in person with our elementary kids, and those teachers would report and those kids would come. And then those 2 weeks, we look at that for middle school and high school, where they have a remote with the opportunity to, have appointments for CTE, have some special ed by appointment, just for those 2 weeks to stabilize the numbers in quarantine and the substitute issue. Because it's not about the number of students that test positive. For us, that's not been a driving factor. It's the fact that we don't have the adults to cover in those classrooms and offer the stability. And I do think that if we did that for those 2 weeks, that would give us a pretty good sign if whether or not we were able to stabilize things and then move forward or not.
Okay, now how about the aides and paras at the high school? Could they be shifted to the elementary to help, or what are we?
We only have one at the high school. And so, our administrators have a meeting first thing tomorrow morning to talk about it. And I would think that person could make a lot of phone calls for kids that aren't logging on and doing those remote. They could make a lot of those family contacts, parent contacts. And if for some reason the one person at the high school and there's two at the middle school that are employed by us, if for some reason they didn't have enough to do, there'd be plenty to do at an elementary building. The paras would still come in and work because they would be able to Zoom in and do remote with their special ed teacher. And if we had special ed by appointment, then parents would make appointments during those 2 weeks for their student to come to the school to receive their services.
As I understand, CTE had a program up last year or a plan, so I assume whatever they would want to do, they could, it's in there.
And I think that's real important, for those hands-on classes that, and, as we heard from, it's just real important that they be there.
The only
Like
thing
you
I
said, by
have,
appointment.
It's high school, it's at the end of the semester, but there's gonna be finals.
Well, I don't know if Eric and Rob have already left. We talked about, he's still waving, because he came up, we talked about finals what about finals?
We're not sure what we're gonna do with finals until we hear from
Right.
what the board's gonna do. We have a lot of teachers that have said, listen, it has been so chaotic that I would rather just not even give a final. We have some that say, doesn't matter, they're giving a final no matter what. So we would have to talk tomorrow morning about expectations for what that would look like at the high school, especially if we're on remote. I mean, it's hard to demand a kid come in and take a final if the board just voted we're going remote.
Well, it'd be like the CTE, those kids are expected to come in.
Well, they're not gonna be able to come in all the time though, because you can't have a kid.
No.
Yeah,
Oh, I
yeah.
understand.
We have to fit, the schedule for that CTE would be different because you can't have them come in like during fourth hour because you don't want them to leave their third hour early or
Right.
be 10 minutes late to fifth, and you don't want a kid in a car driving as fast as they can to get home
To
for
hurry
their
up and
next
get home.
class.
And so it could be an
it's-
early morning,
It may be the very
Could be.
beginning of a true hybrid type of
could be a
schedule.
late afternoon, could be over lunch.
Yep.
And it could be that in those 10 days of instruction, I'm in woodworking class, and it's not necessary for me to come in, because there's book work or there's things that I can do online.
Yeah, and
I
it
think-
could be, instead of running bells, like, a bell schedule, maybe instead of 49 minutes, the classes are 40. And then you build in like an hour of the hands-on time. So lunch maybe is an hour long, and 40 minutes of that, you've got kids coming to do CTs. We don't know. We're just gonna have to brainstorm what
Right.
it might look like.
Right. We just know that what we're doing right now is, with the amount of substitutes in and out of the middle school and the high school and the number of quarantines, it is not sustainable.
So you're saying some of the elective classes might be a little more hybrid than the required?
They're gonna need to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what we're talking about right now is just a 10-day chunk when we return from Christmas break. So just that 10-day chunk before second semester starts. So this is just in order to get us through first semester and to get through those days after the holidays.
Actually be less than the 10 days as far as, because finals would be at the very end of the, so the last 4 or 5 days would be finals.
If they have finals, then it
If
would
they have,
just,
so they're just.
it would be
a few-
probably
Yeah,
less.
6 days.
But I do think it would allow us to look at those numbers to see, we thought there would be big numbers again right after Thanksgiving, and what we've seen are there more and more quarantines. We haven't seen a lot more positives, but those fluctuate every day. So
Well, I would like for us to consider those 20 hours out of the 1,116 to possibly be added on the 19th, 20th, and 21st, if needed.
Or
Because-
staff development, you mean?
Yes.
A type of day?
Yes.
That's pretty good. What were you planning on doing with those?
So we would go back to school, second semester officially starts on the 19th. And so depending upon what learning plan and mode we decide to go, and that's going to determine, I don't want to take all 3 of those days and do 3 full days of professional development, because I think as we get started, we're going to need something in the middle, probably. But I think we could use a day when we came back to start second semester.
Were all of our professional development days front-ended?
We front-end loaded all of our professional
But
development
not
days.
all of them?
No, well,
Okay.
pretty much all of them, with the exception of
But
just,
not all of them?
well, there are no full days. There are an hour and a half, an hour and a half, and an hour, they're early
And that's what some of the
dismissals.
teachers asked for, they wanted some more time, okay.
Right, and what happened was the State Board of Education voted last week to allow 20 hours of contact time to be used. You can use it for professional development, collaboration, parent-teacher conference, and it'll count as student contact time. Usually when you do those things, it only counts as half. So if we have 8 hours of professional development, we only get to count it for 4 hours of student contact time. And so they have made an exception. The waiver's not out yet, but we'll fill it out, where we could use 20 hours of professional development, collaboration, and count it as 20 student hours, which is critical because we're already going till the end of May the 28th, so.
So if we took a professional day on the 19th, and then that'd still give the kids, the students 3 days that week.
Okay, so that starts second semester. So that is
Oh.
when second semester
Yeah.
starts.
Let's move back to the finish up of the first semester, if we could, then we can talk
Okay.
about this other.
Okay.
Does anybody have any objections to the middle school and high school going remote, January 4th through the 15th? I believe it's before this or not.
It is January the 4th through January the 15th.
And this still has the elementaries full in school.
Still has it's elementary
Okay.
full in, high school, middle school remote, with scheduled times for CTE and special ed if necessary.
Does it still allow for the families that have chosen remote for their elementary students to do the elementary remote?
Yes, because it's still the first 2 weeks before
Okay.
the end of the semester. So it would they would continue in their same model that they had done earlier in the semester as they're finishing up first semester.
If there's no other discussion, we'll take a motion to do this.
I so moved.
Well, hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So Regine said that was something that's what I gathered from her, but I haven't heard from Eric.
Okay, is he still out there?
What,
What was the question, Madam?
Regine, when she was here, was talking about the difficulty of remote and in person and kids coming in and out. Is that the same feeling with some of the high school teachers?
Absolutely, because you have,
Okay.
not just with the kids, but with the staff, because I'm
Okay.
covering on my plan, and you never know who's going to be in the classroom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we did have a motion to have high school removed from January 4th through the 15th, with CTE and special education being by appointment and having it come in some. Do we have a second?
I would second it.
Second by David? Any more discussion?
Yeah, hold on. So what about some kids that are falling in the cracks? We're gonna call some of those kids in if needed? I'm thinking in particular the Youth Crisis Center kids, for example.
Okay, so they currently are on remote,
I understand
right?
they need some help.
I would agree. I would agree that remote learning isn't, they're having some of them are having a hard time being successful at that. It's not for everyone, for sure.
During this time, is there an extra person or somebody we could help them with? Or bring them?
Well, I don't know that we would want to bring them in because they've not been in all semester long. And so then to just bring that group in that week, it's going to cause
That was
additional
their
work.
choice
Right.
What?
They chose to go remote
to stay.
for first semester.
Hold on. All I'm saying is, they need some help. That's all I'm saying.
Right.
And you're saying, what are you saying?
What I'm saying is that we can continue to give them the help that we've given them, and hopefully, if we have these 2 weeks of remote, then the remote instruction will be better, as it'll be more focused, because there won't be all of the in and out. But I don't think I can say that there will be another adult available.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you asked Ernest what kind of help they might need?
Yes, I have talked to Shelley,
Okay.
and we've talked about second semester and other options. So, and we had talked about finishing up, the possibility of finishing up remotely the first semester for those 2 weeks.
All I'm saying is, I've watched some of the people that are trying to help them. They're not teachers, they're not even paras. They're doing the best that they can do, but those kids are just falling far behind. And they've been shoveled around district after district. I'm just saying, if we would extend our hand a little bit, that's all I'm saying. That's your call. I'm just throwing that out there.
Anything else? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Now we move to the second semester.
Okay, so second semester starts January the 19th, and it goes clear through until May the 28th unless we have a snow day or something like that. So here's the proposal for second semester. So what we have found through the COVID work group for kids, which is a group of pediatricians, they've spent a lot of time on, KSB Zooms and KU Med, and there's pediatricians from a variety of places, and what the State Department of Education is encouraging now is that for all of our elementary students, they return face-to-face. And so for second semester, I would propose that all of our elementary students return to face-to-face learning, with the exception of students that have a medical issue per a physician, or students that are on quarantine. Our students that were on quarantine or with medical conditions, grades 5, K through 5, would be able to participate in remote learning pre-K students on quarantine would not remotely learn. So the research and the data shows the virus numbers, the transmission numbers, is very low in elementary schools, and they've highly encouraged everyone to be in school. So the new elementary gating criteria that I sent out a couple weeks ago, there was a piece in there where it talked about even if other buildings and levels needed to be remote, that elementary kids face-to-face. I will tell you, we've watched some Zooms right now. We're down to 38 students that are currently remote at the elementary level. Some of those, a lot of those are by choice, just simply for whatever reason that might be. There are a few that I'm aware of that are medical issues, and there may be more. But I would recommend that second semester, you've heard from the Lincoln teachers last month in those letters, little kids do better in a classroom with the teacher. So that would be my recommendation for second semester for our elementary students, that with the exception of a medical issue or a quarantine, all those students return face-to-face for face-to-face learning.
Let's deal with that before we move on to middle school and high school.
Okay.
And any discussion on that?
Do we have to make that decision tonight? Can we see what's coming down the pike a little later on? I mean, we can go ahead and say, yes, I think this is maybe where we're going, but can we amend it?
I mean, we can
if we
always,
need to?
we can always amend it or have another meeting or to look at. I just feel like the numbers that we've had, now we had a little blip in the quarantine a couple weeks ago at the elementary level, but that's what they're recommending is that, the pediatricians are recommending that those kids.
I don't have a problem with that. I guess something about the doctor issue, I could see that, some people, that may be their own personal, and to require them to have a doctor's permit for us to say, you have to have a doctor's permit, or either you can't go online, or be it virtual, at home, I don't know.
So,
The other, I will let you know, the other schools in Lebec County, when I visit with those superintendents, my understanding is that 2 of those districts have not had remote since the end of first quarter, and one of them, there will be no remote unless there's a medical issue or a health issue in the home. So that's what the other schools in Lebec County are doing as well.
so, for example, the people at the crisis shelter, they're gonna come back face-to-face if they had someone that was that age?
Well, I have visited with Shelley, I visited with her last week, and that was a concern because they are really struggling. And some of those services and that instruction and that connection, they need to be face-to-face. And that is something that they have considered and they're willing to consider for second semester.
But this is a month off. We have no idea what the numbers are going to look like. And so this is like,
We're just trying to plan.
there has to be a caveat in here someplace.
The problem we have is we've got 1,300 cases roughly right now. And we're adding such an enormous number of cases. I don't know that people can understand how rapidly these cases can go up given the exponential growth that's happening in this community. And so for us to make a plan a month ahead, it's admirable to plan. I have no problem with planning in life. But it just shocks me that we want to move in a direction when we have a massive outbreak in our community and move people back into the schools. We also need to understand there are a lot of studies out there that talk about the number of students that are asymptomatic. And depending on what study you look at, it may be 20% of adolescents are asymptomatic. There's another study that says maybe 80% are asymptomatic. So you can assume somewhere in the middle. So that means we've got people in our building that have COVID that are asymptomatic. And they could be passing it to people, maybe not in the building because they're wearing masks, but to other people like their families or other in the community. We don't know. Have we ever thought about doing about 1,000 tests and seeing how many people we got?
Well, there is the school testing pilot information that I sent out last week.
Correct.
That is something that we can do. I haven't heard from any board members whether there's an interest in doing that. And they do that for two different reasons. The screening, to see if I'm, in a particular group, and I'm going to test to see without any symptoms, or I'm going to test because I do have symptoms while I'm at school during the day. So today, when we visited the superintendents in the county, we were texting back and forth, and Lisa Hoppick was in that group message with us. We asked specifically, Dr. Wyrick asked, what were the numbers for the county positive in quarantine? And she said there were 1,277 total cases. There were 337 of those that were currently active. So 337 active cases in the county, and then the 940 were recovered in the county. So there are the 1,277, but there aren't 1,277 currently.
Right.
Now, I mean, there's all the asymptomatic, and I don't know about those numbers. There's not really any way of telling unless we do some testing. But we have 337 active cases in the county right now.
And they're increasing, as Jeff said, and the doctors said, be honest, it's not getting any better.
Right, and what we've noticed is that in school, and as pediatricians and our health professionals, the health department have said, school is the safest place because everybody is masked. And so, for example, we have 9 students in the district. That's 0.6% or 0.7% positivity rate. 2 out of those 9 kids are remote learners. They aren't attending class with other students. So it's,
And that's true, but what the doctors say, it's the community.
right.
You have so many people that don't want a mask, that want a distance, that are positive and that won't admit that they're positive or asymptomatic and they're still around other people. So yeah, the kids are doing a great job. There's no question about it.
And those are
Unfortunately, when they leave the school building,
right. And we can only
issues.
control what we can control. And so, and we do have masks that we're going to give out to students. The county had masks, so we're going to be able to give students before they head out for Christmas a mask and some little hand sanitizer. And, we can encourage people to make good choices over the break, but we have control over what happens in the school building. And so for our elementary students.
Well, the KSD, meaning the lunch and learn, that, they had 3 doctors on there. And for elementary, they really, really encouraged face-to-face if possible. They also said that you should, and it was the 3 doctors talking, that you should almost take it building by building.
Right.
To, like if you've got a whole lot in one building, you shut that building
Right.
down.
And that was what our health department had said in regard to making those decisions as a kind of a gating criteria in the beginning, was to look at the attendance, but building by building.
and we are doing that, but
Right.
Eric said and Regine said their teachers are struggling. So those 2 buildings need to be
And those are,
remote.
But that's what.
yeah, that's a
the good thing
secondary.
we're doing. I mean, have we voted on that yet?
No.
No,
We haven't even talked about it
it's the
yet.
second semester plan
even talked
that's
about it.
in question.
But we're talking at this point in time about the elementary schools being face-to-face if all possible. We'll get to middle school and high school in a minute.
Do we have any known transmission cases of student to student
No,
or student to staff?
not that we can directly tie.
Okay.
So,
Well, the kids might be doing great, but we may have teachers that, in the elementary school, that may not be around teaching because of illnesses or quarantine.
Anything else? We'll take a motion to make this change. Have one?
I'll make a motion, we table it till a special meeting in January.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Jeff to table until a special meeting in January. It's been seconded by Lou. Just a point of, do we know where we're looking at for time-wise? Like the 7th or somewhere, 10th of January? How close, how much time are you gonna need, Lori, to put this in place? To get those
What am I-
applications?
Okay,
staying
so,
home.
so I'm confused as to what we're doing. So is the motion that are you moving, Jeff, that we don't do anything for the second semester learning plan until later in January? Is that what the motion is, or is?
My motion is to not adopt a second semester learning plan of this nature until a later point in time.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's my motion.
that's, okay, I just wanted to make sure,
Yeah.
because
So,
I think what you were talking about was if people made applications to apply to do remote, how long that would take. So it's two separate things.
Just thinking of when we would have to have a special meeting, what kind of
Oh,
lead time you all need.
If
to,
people were to apply to do remote, I'm gonna have to look at my calendar.
And so, I'm not saying I'm voting for that either, in
Right.
support of that, which is
Sure.
fine, but I'm just saying that's my motion to table it.
If we had a meeting on January the 4th or the 5th, one of those 2 days, and then had it open, if the option was for parents who wanted to do remote for them to apply, if we offered limited remote learning at the secondary level, which is what a part of this plan had been, where they apply to do that, I think if we had a meeting on the 4th or the 5th, and those applications were made available, we could have those reviewed in time for placements to be made and second semester to start on the 19th.
Okay. That's just information. Right now, the motion is to table this until a special board meeting, which would be set at a later date. Is that what you're saying, Jeff?
That is correct, and we would discuss all of these aspects at a later date, all the contents of this.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And Lou, that was, I believe it was Lou that seconded it, right?
Yes, I did.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none, all in favor of tabling this until a later date, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carry 7-0. So that takes care of the second semester learning plan, correct?
It would appear so, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
10.10, executive session to discuss personnel. Lori, how much time do you need?
I'm probably gonna need about 10 to 15 max.
I need a break.
But maybe if we could have a little break first.
Yeah.
So
Right.
maybe,
Okay, we'll take a break and then we'll come back in and vote on the executive session. How much time do y'all need? 5 minutes?
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Yes.
Okay. About, let's go 8:35. I'll give you 8 minutes.
All right, thank you.
Just so you know, we have 100.
phone
Right,
and the
exactly.
internet, so they just have.
He saw the
there's a few
statistic
places
where
they're still running some cables.
80% of people who pass away are over 70. And he's like, wait, what? That freaked him out.
Really.
Well, there's, let's see, but now one of those guys is out
My son
on
Urban, who's the youngest, he
quarantine, and
is
so.
paranoid 100%.
And
Okay, we're back on.
Oh, we're on. Okay, are we on?
Does Zeke need to do anything?
Okay, we're back in session. We need a motion, I think Laura said 15 minutes.
Yeah,
for
well,
executive
I
session.
bet I could do it in 10. We've been
Does
here
anyone else have anything?
2 hours and
Yeah,
35 minutes.
I need about 5 minutes.
Okay.
Back up to
Okay, let's play it safe. Let's go for 20. If I have a motion to go to the session for 20 minutes, I'm assuming we're going to keep the administrators in. Superintendent, assistant superintendent.
Okay, I'll make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss confidential employee information pursuant to non-elected personnel exception or coma, and the exception for employee-employee negotiations under coma at 8:36 for 20 minutes, and we return here at 8:56.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jeff, second by Lou to go into executive session for 20 minutes with the board and superintendent, assistant superintendent, to go in at 8:36, come out at 8:56. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. We are in executive sessions. Again, they'll mute the
It's on? Yeah.
Is it freezing out there? That's because it's like,
Okay,
now
we're
we're
back
back
on
on.
now, Mike.
Are your hands
You're
warm,
back on,
Roger?
we're back in session.
Better now.
We need to go back in for 5 more minutes. Could I have a motion for that, please?
Yeah, I'll move to go 5 more minutes
Yeah,
to.
I'll make a motion to go 5 more minutes, same purposes, enter at 8:57, come back to this room, 9:02.
Motion by Jeff, second by Lou.
Yeah.
5 more minutes, with the same people present, same purposes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pose same sign. Carry 7-0. We're back in session at 9:02. Let me know when we're off the air.
okay, so we'll wait just a minute.
Are we good?
Okay, so first I've got to find the addendum. Here it is.
Okay, as soon as we get back on live.
You're good.
Okay, where it looks like we're on.
We're back in session.
We are.
Okay, we have some.
Action on personnel.
10:11.
Okay, so we have on action for personnel tonight, we have two resignations from employment. The first is Lauren Coover, elementary school counselor, effective December the 18th, 2020, and Stacy Groff, Garfield aide, effective December the 11th, 2020. I recommend that you approve those resignations.
Does that recommendation include not waiving the penalty?
Right, I'd forgotten about that. So Mrs. Coover is a certified staff member, and according to the negotiated agreement, teachers asking for and receiving a contract release after the valid contract date at this point in time would be a $2,000 release fee since it was received after the first duty day and prior to the end of the contract. So I would recommend that these two resignations be accepted and that Mrs. Coover be assessed that release fee.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by David, second by Olivia. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Did I have an aye?
I had an aye as a nay.
Okay, 6-1 then. All right, anything else from the board? I would just like to say, I think our staff is doing a banged up job and working hard every day, giving the best effort they can. And I hope that they get some time during this Christmas break time to recharge their batteries and enjoy some time with family and have a very happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Don't party over on Happy New Year Day. Let's be safe and
I have
smart.
one item, Mike.
We're going to give everybody a mask.
Ed McKechnie from Pittsburgh, the vice president of the school board, brought up the evaluation of superintendent and principals. And basically, they threw out that survey sheet, that 5-10-point system, and they have a much better system. I think we might want to bring that up and discuss that at the next meeting.
I think that's a good idea. I heard that as well, and I think that we can sit down and talk about maybe a better way to evaluate our administrators.
Yeah. So do you communicate with Ed at all?
I have communicated with him some. I have not on this issue yet.
All right. Well,
I will.
if not, okay. All right, that's it.
And I think that'd be a good idea. Rajan and I finished her evaluation today, and we both felt like
It's awesome.
the McCrell document is maybe not really reflective.
If-
but
McCrell used to be so good.
It did. It's just
If nothing else,
cumbersome.
ladies and gentlemen, wish you a happy Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we will be back in touch in the new year, which will be much better than the old year.
It will. It will. It will. Merry Christmas. Be safe.
Thank you very much.
Be safe.